Hello, and welcome to another episode of Professional Book Girl. My name is Kayla, and I read a ton of books, so I can recommend the best to you. And it is a very exciting episode because it's the first ever PBG Summer Reading Guide Extravaganza. So what I'm going to be doing on this episode is obviously reviewing 3 books that I think are perfect beach reads, summer reads. The timing of this episode is intentional because Memorial Day weekend is coming up. I can't calculate dates and when this episode's airing and when I'm recording it, but Memorial Day weekend is obviously the unofficial start of summer. So I wanted to get this episode out for you guys so that if you need stuff to read Memorial Day weekend, here are 3. They're actually all 5-star reads. That's what I'm going to be reviewing today, but I'm also going to be sharing my Memorial Day weekend TBR with you guys. And I guess I'll just tell you right now, and this could be, I guess, like an announcement. I am doing something this summer that I just made up, and it is called Read What You Own Summer. So I went through my shelves and I chose 30 books, 10 to read in June, 10 to read in July, 10 to read in August. And the plan is to make sure I read them this summer. Part of why I am doing that is because I read the most all year in the summer. So choose a number that feels manageable to you. If that's only 1 book each month, that's great. Like still something to feel proud of. I just chose 10 because I know I read a crazy amount in the summer. And there are also so many releases this summer, like June specifically is so stacked that I was like, I want to make sure I'm not just picking up these shiny new books. I really want to be reading books that have just been on my shelves for so long. So I will, at the end of the episode, run you through the books that are on that list. Book releases this summer that I'm excited about, my Memorial Day weekend TBR. So much. Just like get notes app or a pen and paper and just get ready to be writing a bunch of titles down because I'm just planning on reading so many great books this summer. I'm so excited. It's going to be a really great, it's shaping up even with just the new releases to be just like a really great reading summer. So other announcement, book club is on May 30th. Our book club pick is Funny Story by Emily Henry, which is also a perfect beach read, summer read, Memorial Day weekend read. If you have not read it yet, pick that up now. I was obsessed with it. I gave it 5 stars. If you want your thoughts included in the episode, get them to me by the 28th, which I'm pretty sure is the day after Memorial Day. So read it over Memorial Day weekend and then get it to me. So I figured it would be timely to just like talk about summer plans, my obsession with summer. In the beginning of this episode, I'm a summer girl. Summer is my favorite season, but it actually wasn't always. It wasn't until I graduated college that I came to really love summer. And I was thinking about this the other night, and I think as a kid, summer stressed me out because it was so much unstructured time, which just shows you what I was like as a child. And then as an adult, I liked it a bit more because you're able to put your own like routines and things in place. But I remember even after I graduated, it was the year my first year working, so like right after I graduated college, when I suddenly was like, oh my God, I started to appreciate summer more because I was trapped in an office every single day, 5 days a week. Can't believe I ever even did that before COVID. And I would start, at this time I was living in the house that I grew up in and we had a pool. And this was like the first time I ever really used the pool. And this was also when I started reading a lot. And I like realized that sitting out in the sun was an amazing way to just get through all of these books. So I would like float in my pool and read, and it was like so lovely. And then since my mom has moved, but now where she lives, they have a pool, and I've talked about it before. There's like a pool crew. It's like Real Housewives. It's crazy. But the pool opens Memorial Day weekend, which I'm very excited about, but it's like going to be too cold, I think, to even go to the pool. So that kind of sucks. So I became like a summer girl as an adult, which I don't know. I guess it was just like the journey I was on. But now, and like living in the city, I hate being in New York City during the summer. It's just so hot and so gross. And I'm lucky that my parents live like close enough away from me to go stay with them. So I always was doing the like summer house thing of like going out east to Long Island every weekend in the summer. And then now it's nice being like hybrid and my job is fully remote. Like I don't have to go back and forth as much. Last year, I was at my old job and I was in office 3 days a week. So I'd go in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, take the train back out to Long Island and then stay there until Sunday night, and like Saturday and Sunday go to the beach if I could. So This year, though, since I work fully remote, I'm pretty much going to be like just living home for all of July and August. And I would have gone in June, but my mom's pool is only open on the weekends in June. So I was like, there's no point. So I'll go July and August. I also have so many, like my summer is so booked already, which is exciting, but it's also a little stressful because I probably won't get that much reading done in July, to be honest, because I have my brother's getting married, but there's all the festivities that go into that, and I have family coming in from out of state, and some of them are staying with us, and then my cousin's graduating high school, so we have her grad party. I have a bachelorette trip that I'm very excited about. I'm turning 30 and I'm having a giant Mamma Mia theme party, and I am so excited for it. I like just packed, I just got my invites in the mail and like stuffed all the envelopes, and I'm gonna mail them out next week, and I like am so excited for that. And then August so far seems quieter, which is nice because I just want to like relax and like be at the pool on the beach, and like that is what I like to do in the summer. I like usually say I'm busy every weekend, and it means I'm busy just sitting out in the sun and reading. Like that is what I look forward to all year. I love it so much. I love going home and spending a lot of time with my family. It's really special that I get to like be with my mom for like more time. Like I'm basically moving back in with her for 2 months this year, and like hang out with my cousins, and I'll like go get dinner with my dad and his family a lot. And yeah, it's just like I'm really looking forward to this summer. I love summer so much. I love having a summer birthday. I am just so excited. So I really like that's my little spiel. We have so many books to talk about, so I think we should just get into it. So these are 3 books I think would be perfect for Memorial Day weekend, summer, just perfect books to read. I gave them all 5 stars. The first book is Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage. If you follow me on Instagram, which if you're listening to this and you don't, please follow me at KRedWhat. You might not be surprised to hear that I am talking about this book on this week's episode because I just read this and I was fucking obsessed with it. So if you have not ever seen the cover of this book and the other ones in the series, they're cowboy romance books, which is literally what they are. And like the covers really represent that. And when I first saw them, I was like, not for me. And like I've spoken about this before when I was talking about Wild Love, because when I realized it was a Kindle Unlimited book, like I'm judgy, period. And I'm very judgy with books because I've gotten to a point where I've read so many books that I kind of can know if I'm going to like it or not. And I like to kind of like filter out the ones that I think I'm not going to like because I don't want to waste my time on a book that I don't like, you know? But sometimes there are books that I'm wrong about. And this was another one. And it's annoying to me because I keep being wrong about romance books. And I feel like I'm part of the problem for like the slack that the romance genre gets. And like maybe we just need to like work on the marketing a little bit, because then I would like pick them up without like having this internal battle in my head. So what happened to me with this series is that I went to an event at Penguin Random House, like at their office, and I was given an arc of the second book in the series that's called Swift and Saddled, which, spoiler for the end of this episode, is on my Memorial Day weekend TBR. And I saw it and I was like, I'm probably never going to read this, but I was like, let me just like keep it, because you never know. And like part of why 90% of the reason why I said I'm never going to read this is because I am not like a cowgirl. Like I don't listen to country music. Country music for me is Debut and Fearless Taylor Swift. Like I am not an outdoorsy girl. Like I am like 100,000,000% a city girl, and like I always will be. And I was just like not interested in cowboys really. But like jokes on me, because now like cowboy take me away, I'm ready to freaking move to Wyoming and like with my red cowboy boots that I already own and like marry a cowboy, because that is what this book has done to me. So okay, but so I got that book and I was like, I'm not gonna read it because I was still being like a judgy little bitch. And then I was invited to this event by Dial Press, who are an imprint at Random House, and they've kind of like relaunched as this romance imprint, and they're publishing so many great books, and they invited me to this really cool event. It was honestly, which I've been going to so many book events lately, which has been so cool and so much fun. And it's like really fun because I'm making friends. So like the other day I walked into one, everyone was like, oh, hey, because it's like we know each other now, and it's just like really cool. And I'm like, oh, I'm like a real influencer. Like it's crazy. But they had this event at the Rip Bodice in Brooklyn, which is just such a beautiful bookstore. It was only my second time there because it's very annoying to get to from where I live. So I was happy to like be back for something so fun. And it was a fall romance preview, and Lyla Sage was going to be there. So I knew I was going to this event. I had RSVP to it like over a month ago. And I did this thing when I was making my monthly TBR for, I think, honestly, even April, where I was like, I just like kind of like chose books at random around my apartment to pick up. And Swift and Saddled was one of them. But then, like, 2 weeks before this event, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should pick up one of her books and she's going to be there, because it's more fun when you've like read the author's books for the event that you're going to. But I was like, wait, like I am a purist. So I was like, I need to get the first book. So I bought the first book, Done and Dusted. And when I was buying it, I was like, this is like a risk. Like, am I like, the Libby wait was like too long. It was like 3 weeks. And actually my hold came through after I'd already read it. And I was like, whatever, I'll just buy it. And if I don't like it, I'll donate it. Like, whatever. Oh my God. Obsessed, like obsessed. So that is how this book actually made its way into my hands. And I would like to thank the universe, but specifically Penguin Random House, for just inviting to me to this series of events that led to this series of events of me finally picking this book up and like broadening my horizons and falling in love with Cowboy. So Done and Dusted is the first in this new romance universe called the Rebel Blue Ranch romance universe. And you might guess it takes place on a ranch. So Rebel Blue Ranch is owned by this family, and I obviously forgot their last name. And it's like a lot of acres. Like, when I tell you I don't know anything about this world, I don't even know what's an acre. Like 100-acre woods, like how big is that? I don't know. I don't know any of this, but I got the gist that it's like big. Like they own a lot of land. And like on the land, like it's a ranch, which also, like, me thinking of a ranch, I was thinking about that season of Real Houses in New York where they went to like Montana or something. So that's what I'm working with here. And there's cows, news to me, and they do like horseback riding lessons and whatever. And there's like a big house where the family lives. So the main girl in this book, her name is Emmy, and she is the only daughter of this family. She has two older brothers, Gus and West, who you may guess it's a romance universe. So they are the protagonists in the following books in the series. And they're very overprotective of her. Like, the mom died when she was a baby, and Gus specifically, who's the oldest brother, is like very overprotective, like borderline, maybe a little overbearing. And she like grew up wanting to move out of this small town that she lived in. And you get the vibe that they're like local celebrities because of how big the ranch is. So she moves to Denver because she's a professional barrel racer. And I had no idea what that was. It wasn't until like the last third of the book that I finally Googled it, because I was like, what the hell are they talking about here? And it's like, I'm sure people listening to this who are like cowgirls are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But this is not my world, you guys. But that is when there are like barrels around a course, and she's on a horse and she has to like go around them so fast, and that's what she does for a living. But she had an accident and she was thrown off of a horse, and now she is scared to get back on. And the whole time I was reading this is such like an unrelated anecdote, but one of my best friends tells this story from childhood when she was on a Girl Scout trip, and she had a horse. She was like on a horse named Durango, and I don't think he threw her, like she fell off, and it became like this giant like joke for the rest of her life, like how scared she was of Durango. So I was like picturing my friend Megan getting thrown off of Durango, like, which was so fucked up. But I was like, oh, that I can relate to. I know someone who has ridden a horse and fallen off, which is not funny. It's a serious thing, but whatever. So, and because of that accident, she has been like just going through it, like mental health, not great. And that happens before the book starts. So when the book opens, she has just moved back to her hometown. She didn't even tell her family she was coming back. Only her best friend, Teddy, knows. And she's back. And it's kind of like, it's a big deal. And her family is shocked when they find out that she's there. But she gets back and she goes to Teddy's house, and the two of them go out to the bar in town. I think it was called like Devil's Boot. And when she walks in, it's like the local dive bar, but like everyone hangs out there. And she sees this guy, Luke. So Luke is obviously our main guy in the book, and he is best friends with her older brother, Gus. But the way they describe the age gaps, I think he's actually a bit younger than Gus, but they are just like absolute best friends. And we learned that he had like a bit of a rough upbringing and his family drama was very interesting. I'm not going to spoil it. But because of that, he really found solace and family in Emmy's family and was like a very big figure in her house when she was growing up. And because he was best friends with her older brother, like he would like join in on the like making fun of her. So I would not go so far as to say this book is enemies to lovers. The main trope really is brother's best friend, which I usually hate that trope. But this is the first time I think I've ever read it where it was done well. Like I was obsessed. And I pictured him as Tim Riggins, which made it all the better. And another funny anecdote actually about that same friend, Megan, who was thrown off of Durango. We both went to college in the city. We went to different schools, but our dorms were near each other. So we became friends at the end of high school, but we were like really college best friends because we were just like in New York City together at that time. And we were obsessed with the Rangers, the hockey team, which like, let's go Rangers in the playoffs right now. If you know, you know. And they always post like when celebrities are at the game. And we literally lived down the block from Madison Square Garden. So we would always see like who was at the game. And at the time we were watching Friday Night Lights and like obsessed with Tim Riggins. And one day Tim Riggins was at the Ranger game, but we both like weren't in the city because when celebrities go to events, but like specifically Ranger games, there's a certain exit that they leave. So sometimes if you would see someone's at a Ranger game, like you could go stand outside this one spot at Madison Square Garden and there's like a bunch of people there and like usually they'll like stop and like take pictures and say hi. So we would like joke for like years, like, oh, Tim Riggins at the Ranger game. Like we went to games all the time. We'd be like, oh, is Tim Riggins going to be at the Ranger game? And one day I had gotten back from class. It was a night class. And I literally just sat down in my dorm and Megan called me and she was like, Tim Riggins is at the Ranger game. I was like, you're lying. So I ran to MSG. My sister was in at FIT at the same time and she went too. And Tim Riggins came out with Chase Crawford and Nate Archibald. They are friends in real life and they were at the Ranger game together. And it was like a cluster of like, I was like 20 at the time and like they were so nice. And I have photos of both of them and they were just like, just so beautiful and lovely in person. But it was so funny because everyone was freaking out about Chase Crawford, which like I get it. I'm also rewatching Gossip Girl and like I was obsessed with him as a teenager and he is still so beautiful. But I was just so like Tim Riggins is at the Ranger game. Like that was a huge inside joke that every day we would joke about and it like came true. And I got to meet Tim Riggins. So anyway, I pictured Tim Riggins. What is his real name? Taylor Kitsch. But he's always Tim Riggins to me, except for in this case where he's Luke, because I pictured Tim Riggins as Luke. Did you get that by now? I also had like 3 sips of a coffee before filming this and I had to stop drinking it because I was like, they put something in this. Like I feel crazy. I feel like you can tell I'm over caffeinated on this episode. Anyway, she walks into the bar and she sees Luke, who's her brother's friend, who they just like never really got along. And she's like, oh my God, he looks so hot. And he's like, because we also got his perspective. He's like, oh my God, she looks so hot. And obviously you can guess what happens. So this goes on to become like a brother's best friend, forbidden romance vibe, but there's so many other interesting things at play here. Like obviously the ranch world was new to me, but I really enjoyed reading it. It is so atmospheric. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in like the middle of nowhere looking up at like a giant blue sky when meanwhile I'm in Manhattan. I could not be the furthest from that. And the family aspects, like Emmy's family, who are really like tight knit versus Luke's relationship, and you get to meet like her best friend Teddy has a really interesting family dynamic as well, and she's going to be the protagonist in another book in the series. So I couldn't put it down. I started this book at like 7:15 at night. I was like, okay, because I just finished another book and I was like, I don't want to just sit on TikTok. I try to like limit my screen time when I can. And you know, when you know that like just sitting and scrolling on your phone is not going to be good for your mental health in that moment. So I was like, let me just like start this book before Vanderpump Rules Part 1 reunion. And I started, I read the first 50 pages and I was like, should I skip my shows tonight? And I almost did, but honestly, it was because I had Vanderpump and The Valley that I was like, I don't want to be behind on 2 shows. So I read the first 50, obsessed, and I posted to my story that I was obsessed. And then I put it down and then I watched Bravo for 2.5 hours because also I had to watch Happens Live. And I came back to my phone and I had like 25 DMs of people being like freaking out about it as well. And then there also were a lot of DMs from people who had the same thing as I did and who said they like judged it. They didn't think that they would like it, but now they were picking it up and like that is my favorite thing in the world. when I can convince you guys to read any book. So please never hesitate to tell me if you're about to send me a DM being like, hey, I picked this up because of you, and you don't because you think it's going to annoy me, please don't do that because it literally makes my day. But it was like really funny how so many of us had the same experience with this book. But I was just like obsessed, and I would have stayed up all night finishing it, but I had an early meeting. So I was like, okay, I need to like put this down, and I saved like the next 75 pages for the next day. So then I finished it on my lunch break the day I was going to that event that the author was at. And it was just like, I was joking with some of the people that I was talking to at the event. I was like, yeah, I literally did my homework. Like, I just finished the book. I loved it so much. The way that it's written was just, you fly through it. It's so much fun. I'm so excited now to continue this series. Swift and Saddled, the second in the series, is already out. I'm reading that Memorial Day weekend. And then the third one, I think it's Lost and Lassoed, comes out in November, but I got an advanced copy of it at that event. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not waiting. Like, I'm reading it very soon because I'm just like obsessed with this world. And actually, at the event, the author, who is so young, I'm pretty sure she's younger than me. And I was like, oh my God, which is like, I'm 29, like I shouldn't be so jarred by that, but I was like, oh wow. It's when you like realize a celebrity is younger than you and you're like, what am I doing with my life? But she was so funny and so cool, and they asked a question and they were like, what Taylor Swift song would you use to describe your book? And she was like, well, actually, the book, she had like just submitted her fourth book the night before this event. And she was like, it would be, for that book, it would be So High School, which is my favorite song from Torture Poets. So I was just like, oh, fuck yes. Like, I'm obsessed with this author now, and I'm obsessed with that. And I can't wait to see what she does. I gave it 5 stars. Obsessed. Like, I'm in my cowgirl era. Catch me probably not riding a horse because I'm like scared of him. Catch me in my red cowboy boots more frequently. That is done and dusted by Lyla Sage. The next book is a bit of a throwback. It is Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. I read this probably 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. It's been out for a bit. This is honestly one of my all-time favorite books. It sits on my favorite shelf. I still think about this book and Mary Jane, who is the main character, all the time. I want to preface it by saying, like, this is kind of, when it came out, people were describing it to like Daisy Jones and like Songs in Ursa Major, which if you have not read Songs in Ursa Major, I always say Major and I become like a Long Islander when I'm pronouncing that title. But you need to read that book. So good. I read that in one day at the pool like a few summers ago. It gets described to them. There became a thing that happened, and I actually covered this book on my old podcast, Books in the City, after I had read it, and I'm pretty sure I said on that one that it annoys me. It annoyed and annoys still to this day that any book set in the 70s is compared to Daisy Jones, because like it's so different. So this one was compared to it when it came out because like 70s and music is like a heavy influence. The cover is so beautiful, and it's like a girl holding a record on like a vinyl record on her lap. But it's really like a character study deep dive, like also like a cultural study of the time. And it is so good. It's probably a bit more literary though than you might think, but you have to pick it up and you have to stick with it because this is one of my favorite books. So, like I said, this takes place in the 70s in Baltimore, and we meet Mary Jane, who is 14 years old, and she comes from a family that like her mom was stereotype of like a perfect, quote unquote, perfect 50s housewife. Like, she plans out the family's dinner menu months in advance, which like honestly, I plan all of my meals menu like a week in advance, so that's not as crazy, but the way that it takes place in this book was kind of crazy. And they're very like I think I want to say like Nixon was president during this, and they have like a photo, whoever the president was, they have like a photo of him on the wall, and like so against like hippie and like counterculture and extremely conservative. She's an only child. Her dad is a lawyer or something like that, and like they feel like they have to, the mom feels like they have to like keep up images, just like you can like, I feel like from what I'm saying, you can kind of like gather the type of household that I'm talking about. And because of like kind of this stifling environment she's growing up in, she's very shy and like quiet. She loves to read, which like same, obviously. But She also, though, there's like parts of her that are different from her family, but she's still so young. She's 14 and she like doesn't know how to express that. So she loves music, so she sings in the church choir, and her mom like subscribes to Broadway show tunes of the month, and they'll get like this record, but she's not listening to rock and roll and kind of like the cooler aspects of the 70s until it is summertime and the new family next door, hire her to be their nanny. So this family are the complete opposite of her parents. The dad is a psychiatrist, and I don't remember what the mom did. I think she might have worked, which was like controversial at the time for her to be a working mom. But they are like free spirits, hippies, just like, but not like, her parents are one end of an extreme and the neighbors aren't the other end. They're just, compared to what her parents are like, they seem like they're like Woodstock, like hip, like full on hippies, but they're really just like not as conservative as her parents, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. Anyway, she starts nannying for them for the little girl, and already she's like finding more freedom and finding herself, and she like is realizing that families don't look the way that hers does. And the dad gets a new patient for the summer, and it is this famous rock star who then comes with his wife, who is like a very famous actress, and Mary Jane's world just completely explodes open, and now she is just introduced to like everything like that her parents have always tried to hide her from, and like her parents are literally scared of. So he is like, I pictured him as like a Keith Richards, like this famous rock star who obviously struggles with substance abuse, and he's there because he's like trying to stay sober. And you basically follow Mary Jane living in this household over the course of one summer. So she is home with her family and everything is like cookie cutter. It's the 70s, but like I feel like 50s is a better analogy for like the type of vibe in that household. And then she goes next door and it is just like the complete opposite of everything. She has freedom. There's like this one very specific scene where her and like the little girl she's nannying decide that they want popsicles. So they're like eating these popsicles and it's making a mess all over the daughter. And it's like her mom would have been flipping out about that, but she's like, it's not a big deal. It's a hot summer day and we're enjoying these popsicles. And she gets very close with, I don't remember the rock star's name, but the actress, I think her name was Sheba, and they like just open up Mary Jane's eyes to a whole different world, but then they also are still who they were, even though they're before like the therapy started and working through their demons. And there's this one part of the book that I just like years later always sticks with me, and someone in the book makes a very big mistake. You can guess, maybe because as someone who's working on an addict is working on their sobriety, and how like tenuous those early days are. And Mary Jane learns about it, and she says, she's like, I love him, but I don't love what he did. And that always stuck with me as just a person, but it also made me look back on my childhood and those complicated feelings when I would see adults that I loved struggling with things and not fully understanding like why it was like that. And it's just like, that has always stuck with me. There are so many specific scenes that I'm like fully picturing in my head as if it were a movie, but I don't want to say and spoil it. And I'm worried maybe I'm not selling everyone on this, but it is so, so good. And I think the fact that she is 14 is so special because that is just such a unique time in your life where she's either in high school or about to go into high school, and she's kind of like on the cusp of change and she's learning more about herself. And so then for her to suddenly be introduced to this world where it's not as constricting. It's like she goes over to the house next door and it's like she can breathe. And then also her relationship with the little girl she's nannying was so cute. And I just really, really love this. And it's just like, it is such a summer book, especially because it takes place over the course of a summer. But I think also looking back on my summers, when I was 14, 15, like summers felt more like chapters because it was so, like emotions are so heightened at that age and everything seems like so like all or nothing, and you're figuring things out and learning who you are. And that is what Mary Jane is. And I love it. I love Mary Jane. I still think about it all the time. Just like so good. So good. I could say so good 5 million times. 5 stars. That is Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. The final book is one that I'm honestly sure a bunch of you have already read, and it is Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. And when I think of a summer romance, it is this book. This is the grown-up version of the Summer I Turned Pretty book series. Who knows what's going on with the show? Also, did you guys see we're not getting it this summer? Like, I caught up last summer, so I could watch live this summer with everybody for nothing. Anyway, and it's coming back though, but 2025. So this also is like so similar to Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I had read that one first, but I actually liked Every Summer After more. This is also the first book by Carley Fortune, who just had another book come out. I think it was called This Summer Will Be Different. I loved this one. Like I said, this is a 5-star read. Every book on this episode is 5-star read. I did not like her second book, and her third one just didn't do it for me. And I'm at the point with her that I'm like, I don't think I need to just continue reading all of them unless the description stands out to me. The third one actually was a like best friend's brother, which that trope is just not my thing, except for Done and Dusted. But anyway, Every Summer After, I think I read this 2 years ago, and I remember the night that I picked it up because it was one of the rare cases where I picked up a book like immediately after work and I finished it that night, which I know probably sounds crazy for me to say rare, but usually when I read a book in a day, it's like a weekend day and I started it early in the day. But I was like, everybody was posting about this book and I had it and I was like, actually, I don't think I even had it. I think I bought it because everyone was posting about it. And then I was obsessed. I like cried. I remember I like made a TikTok of like me throwing the book because of this one specific line in it, and like so good. But speaking of brothers, this is like a love triangle between brothers, which I know does not do it for everyone, but as a Vampire Diaries girly, like that trope will just always kind of work for me, even though Team Stefan. But anyway, our main girl is Persephone, which I just love that. And she grew up summering at this like lake in Canada, and when she was there she met this kid who was a local, and obviously I don't know his name. His name is Sam. And they became best friends. They grew up together, and then obviously they fell in love, and then something happened and she stopped going back there, and they have not had contact for I think it's like 5 years until something happens that brings her to like the current day when she goes back. So the book is told in dual timelines, and we see the flashbacks from the day that they met through their childhood, teenage years, everything. And it's told in summers because that is when the time that they got to spend with each other. And then in the current timeline, they see each other again. There's a lot of drama. Actually, I guess I can say it because I'm looking at the description of the book, and it says she goes back because Sam's mom has died and she was very close with his mom. And so that is a content warning, and that was very sad to read. Like grief plays a huge role in this book. And now that they're back together, like things start like rekindling. Um and yeah, that's kind of all I can say to describe it. But also, like, the Summer I Turned Pretty, Sam has a brother who is kind of like always orbiting, and I already said it's a love triangle between brothers, and he's always had feelings for Persephone, so that really comes into play kind of all of their lives, but especially once they're like older teenagers and then when they reconnect as adults. And it's a really beautiful story. And like I said, there was one line where I was just like, it like broke my heart, and it was just one sentence, and it was just like I was so in it. This is the perfect beach read. I think I love the dynamic of summer teenage love then with the juxtaposition of like a current day adult timeline. Like last summer I reread The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I loved them when I was 18, and I enjoyed them again. I didn't love them as much as an adult as I did when I was 18, but I love that, and that will always be like a special fun thing to read about. But I think then getting to see what they're like grown up is also really cool. Like, what are Belly and Conrad up to right now? You know, like getting that all in one. I really like that. And I just could not put this book down. Like, there's a reason why like everyone on Bookstagram was obsessed with it when it came out. The way that it's written, it's really sweet when you see them as kids, and because you know them as kids, like things that they do as adults make more sense. And you watch them as they're growing up and trying to figure out how our lives are changing. Are they changing in the same way? Just, yeah, so good. 5 stars. That's Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. Okay, so now I'm pulling up my phone and I'm going to tell you my Memorial Day Weekend TBR, which is extremely exciting. Although I saved these books assuming I would be reading them by the pool, and I don't think that's happening. I am still going home for a long weekend though because I have a doctor's appointment. So these are the books that I'm bringing home with me because I'm going home for like 5 days. So I'm bringing home Swift and Saddled, like I already said. Then I'm finally going to read We Love the Nightlife, which is the new Rachel Collar Croft. I was obsessed with her book Stone Cold Fox. It was my number 2 favorite of 2023. This is disco vampires in London in the 70s and today. Like, I'm obsessed. It comes out in August. Then I'm going to read A Short Walk Through a Wide World. I got this from Book of the Month. I haven't seen anybody talking about, but it seems like magical realism a la Addie LaRue. So check back in the May wrap up to see what I thought about it. Then I'm going to do another book for my private reread. And then I'm going to read Hang the Moon by the same woman who wrote The Glass Castle, which I watched that movie. I didn't read the book, but this is fiction. And then I probably won't get to it this weekend. But then next for me is I'm continuing my Throne of Glass reread with Queen of Shadows. And I'll talk about it on my wrap up, my thoughts when I read Air of Fire the second time. Okay, and then my read what I fucking own summer 2024 list. Where is it? So this, I'm going to also post this on KRedWhat, obviously, but I'll just read them off for you so you can get excited if you hear something. It's kind of a mix of books I've owned for a year plus, a la the 24 and 24 challenge that I'm doing this year, which is in the beginning of 2024. I picked out 24 books from my shelves I've owned for a year plus to read in this year. Some of these I've owned for a while. Other ones are like kind of more recent acquisitions that I was excited about. I really just looked at my unread books. I have them in a shelf and a book cart, and I just pulled 30 books. So I don't have the author names. Sorry, because I'm lazy. And also I'm not reading them in this order. I swear I'm going to read this any second. I'm not reading them in this order. This is just the order that I have them stacked together. What I want to do, because I am a very strict TBR reader, but I want this to feel kind of like fun and loose. So I'm going to, when I write out, because I do write out my physical TBR also in my notes app, that's what I was just reading off of. I'm going to put like the new release, which I also have to tell you those too, but it'll be like a new release, and then I'll just say like summer TBR, and then be like a Throne of Glass book for my reread, and then like say summer TBR, and like basically whenever it says summer TBR book, I'll just look at the pile, pick a book, check it off on my checklist, and it's going to be good to go. So this is my read what you fucking own backlist summer 2024 reading list. Okay. Twice Tempted by a Rogue, The Book of Lost Friends, Under Your Spell, When You Get the Chance, Silence for the Dead, At Summer's End, A Train to Moscow, The Girls in Navy Blue, Picasso's Lovers, Tokyo Dreaming, The Reunion, The Royal Governess, The Most Famous Girl in the World, Summer Darlings, The Family Bones, Nowhere Like Home, Kingdom of the Wicked, The Other Family, Dating You, Hating You, Say You'll Be Mine, Ready or Not, The Last Widow, The Ringmaster's Daughter, All the Ways We Say Goodbye, The Forgotten Garden, A Shadow in Moscow, The Ambassador's Daughter, The House of Lincoln, The Wind Knows My Name, and The Hurricane Wars. And now books that are coming out this summer that I'm excited about. I'm also going to be posting these on KRedWhat sometime soon, so you can see that full list there. But June is so stacked. So Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. She wrote Nora Goes Off Script, obsessed with her. Not in Love, the new Allie Hazelwood, cannot wait. A Novel Love Story, the new Ashley Poston, dare I say, my favorite romance author. The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. Honestly, I've only loved one of Lucy Foley's books, The Guest List, but I'm going to read it because I just torture myself. Middle of the Night by Riley Sager, Husbands and Lovers by Beatrice Williams, One Star Romance by Laura Hinken. I actually have already read and I gave it 5 stars. You're going to hear about that soon. Anna Bright is Hiding Something by Susie Orman Schnall. This book is, so this author I was introduced to because she wrote a historical fiction novel about the New York World's Fair, which I'm endlessly fascinated about the World's Fair. Loved it. Highly recommend that book. But then she pivoted for this one because she was so inspired by Elizabeth Holmes and like the show. What was the show called? I don't remember, but I was obsessed with it. And so this is like that type of vibe. Can't wait. Same as It Ever Was by Claire Lombardo, Jackie by Dawn Tripp, The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center, Honey by Isabel Banta, All the Summers in Between by Brooke Ann Foster, The Queen's Faithful Companion by Eliza Knight. Those are just all June releases. Like when I say there are so many books coming out in June, it's overwhelming. July. The Summer Pack by Emily Giffen, The Grandest Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, The Briar Club by Kate Quinn, The Windsor Conspiracy by Georgie Blockuk, and The Hollywood Assistant by May Cobb. And then August, House of Glass by Sarah Pennican, We Love the Nightlife by Rachel Collar Croft, The Housekeeper's Secret by Iona Gray, Daydreams by Hannah Grace, A League of Her Own by Kaya Alderson, and So I Roar by Abhi Dari, The Light Over Oslo by Alex Rickloff, The Paris Gown by Christina Wells, and then I have 3 for September, so I'm just going to say it, and then this is like October, November, and December I haven't listed out yet, but September, So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison, The Most Famous Girl in the World by Ayman Harari Kia, which is on that summer list I'm going to read, and then Double Exposure by Alyssa Sloan. So many books for the summer. So exciting. Let me know what you're reading. It'll probably inspire me to add more books, this never-ending list. Thank you so much for listening. Book Club is on May 30th. Funny Story by Emily Henry, which you should add to your summer reading list immediately if you have not already. That book just feels like summer. Get Your Thoughts to Me by 528. Please make sure you're following, subscribe, and to do on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. Follow me on Instagram at Care About. Follow the show at Professional Book Girl. Leave a rating or review. Buy the books that I always forget to say this, but if you want to help support this show, you can buy the books through my bookshop.org link. It's linked in the show notes and in my Instagram bio. And that just like gets me a little bit of affiliate money. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next week.